Well, hello, friends and subscribers. This is the Little Squirt the Fire Engine channel. And thank you so much for being patient. I think it's been a long time since I put out a video, probably 5 months. And as I mentioned before, the reason for that is because here in the state of Illinois, this truck being licensed as an antique vehicle, it is against the law to drive it during the winter months. So finally spring is upon us, and I decided that now would be a good time to do some maintenance on Little Squirt. I thought about taking it into a truck shop, but I decided really what's the fun of having your own fire truck if you don't get your hands dirty, so I decided to do the lube service myself. I know that the truck was, the last time it was serviced was in 2019 by the Cedar Rapids Fire Department, and although it didn't have many hours on it since then, it has been almost 5 years, so I decided now would be a good time to do the maintenance. So first I started with the oil. You can see here we're already underway, and got underneath the truck, got a bucket to catch the oil, took the oil plug out, and I had read that this fire truck contained 5 gallons of oil, so I thought, okay, 5 gallons of oil, 5-gallon bucket, this should be good, right? And at about this point, where it's about 2/3 full, yeah, this was a problem. So we were over 2/3 full, and the oil was still pouring out. So what I decided to do was to quickly re-plug the oil pan, which of course is very messy, as you can see, and go find an additional container to drain the oil into. So this is my usual oil drain that I use for my other cars. If it looks like a kitty litter box to you, that's because it is. It actually works really well for draining oil, and it was very cheap and easy to get. So nothing special, but I drained the rest of it into a kitty litter box. Also, I'm going to apologize in advance for the film quality of this video. I was kind of in a hurry. When I filmed this video, I was still trying to finish up my master's degree, actually, and I did finish it, but I was in the middle of finals when I did this, and I had to film it quickly, so, you know, it is what it is. Take it or leave it. If you don't like it, you can have your money back. So the 6V92, which is the engine in this truck, it's a Detroit diesel, two-stroke, 6-cylinder turbocharged diesel. Uses straight 40 oil, which is interesting because straight 40 oil is not really used anymore in trucks. Most trucks use multi-viscosity oil like 15W40, 15W30. Here you can see me trying to take the oil filter off. Sorry about the camera angle. It is what it is. It's a typical spin-off oil filter, just one. So if you've seen it done before, you've seen it a million times. Anyways, this straight 40 weight oil is relatively hard to find, and you can sometimes you can find it at Napa, but in this case, I actually got a really good deal on some mobile Rotella T1 oil, which is one of the recommended brands, and I got a great deal from Amazon. It took a few days to show up because they had to ship it really slow, but I think I got 5 gallons of oil of straight 40 oil for $100 flat with shipping, which comes out to, you know, $5 a quart. It's pretty good. So again, I had read many different sources that said the capacity of the oil in this truck was somewhere between 5 and 6 gallons, depending on the configuration. I bought 5 gallons. As you can see, this is a 5-gallon bucket. I started filling it up down in the valve cover before, but then it got easier to fill it up from up top. The truck has 2 oil fills. And so I put all 5 gallons in, and then I checked the dipstick, and lo and behold, I don't know if you can see here, but it's still on low. So I said, oh, okay. Well, it was a relatively warm day, so I didn't think the oil was taking too long to flow down into the pan. So I thought, well, I'm going to go have to find 1 other gallon of oil to put in. Took a break from putting the oil in, and then I decided to start lubricating the grease points, the Zerk fittings. And if you don't know anything about these, go look them up. They're really cool. You get one of these grease guns, you stick it on the end of the Zerk fitting, and then you just inject grease directly into whatever you need to grease up. And I had watched some tutorials on where to look for grease points, and I figured based on what I'd seen that there'd be somewhere between 10 or 15 grease points underneath this truck, and as it turns out, there is about at least 50 of them. And some of them were in terribly hard to reach places. Some of them were rusted out, and I had to buy new grease fittings to install. And I thought a whole tube of grease would be enough. That's 14 ounces of grease. I thought it would be enough to do the whole truck, and actually I went through three entire 14-ounce tubes of grease to get every spot in this truck. It was obvious that it had not recently been greased. I found some fittings that were dry, or that took tons and tons of grease. You can see the grease starts to squirt out around the edge of the fitting when you know it's full. Again, special thank you to my son, who is the cameraman here. And so this actually just wound up being a lot more work than it seemed like it was going to be. And I actually did it over the course of 2 different days because I just ran out of time the first day. So there's these grease fittings. They're all over they're on the brake calipers, they're on the kingpins, they're on the tie rods, they're on the pitman arms, they're on the pump, they're on the steering shaft. I mean, like, there's everywhere, and they're everywhere. And like I said, I got probably counted about 50 of them. And so this was just a long process of greasing it up and hoping for the best. I understand now why professional truck mechanics or grease monkeys use electric grease guns, because after a while my hands started to hurt from squeezing this grease gun so much. Anyway, so let's move on. So I also wanted to check the rest of the fluids in this truck. And this is the coolant recovery tank. And you're going to say, hey, little squirt, the fire engine, that's in the wrong place. Since when is a coolant recovery tank under the radiator? And my answer was, I don't know. It came that way, and it seems to work okay. So I just topped it off with some water and left it. Up next, this is the mechanism that raises the cab up. It's an air-assisted hydraulic pump. As you can see, it's supposed to be red. It's very greasy and dirty because it's got a very small leak in it. So every year or so I need to fill it up with more hydraulic oil. So as you can see here, I got my handy dandy Harbor Freight hand pump. I put one end in the hydraulic oil and one end into the fill tube, and I essentially just filled it up until it was topped up. It did pretty good. It probably took 2 or 3 cups, maybe a little more. I mean, it took quite a bit. But after this, it always lifts the cab a lot better. Additionally, this truck also has a an oil reservoir for the pump. And there's a little door in the passenger side that's got the reservoir there. You can see it, as well as a little pressure gauge. So I was wondering, it was a little low, so I was wondering to myself, I wonder what oil I'm supposed to use. And I started looking around and looking on the internet, and my kid was like, Dad, just look right there. There's a sticker on the door. Just look right there. Up next was our hubs. Front hubs do have on-hub lubrication. And basically what you have here is there's a little window, and there's little lines on the window, and one says low and one says high. And you want to make sure that the oil is at the high part of the window. The oil was at the high part of the window, which is good, but on the passenger side, it very obviously had some water infiltration. Up next, of course, is the power steering pump. This one has a little window in the side that you can look through and make sure that the red fluid's at the right level, so it's very easy to check. In this case, it was perfectly fine. The fluid was clean and red, so just checked it and moved on. So I got some more engine oil, and I came back to the the pump lubrication area, and topped it off with about a quart. So I found this, like I said, SAE 40, straight 40 is very hard to find, but I found at AutoZone, they actually had some STP brand SAE 40 that was on clearance. So I bought a bunch of bottles for very cheap. Now I know the diehards out there are going to go, you shouldn't use anything but, Rotella or Dello, in your engine. And to them I say, you're probably right, but this is not an in-service fire truck, and I don't run the engine for thousands of hours every year, so just the right grade of oil at a good price is good enough for me. So you can see here that the reservoir for the fire pump is now full. So that's good. And then, like I said, I was about a gallon short, so I went back up top to the upper oil fill, and I had my apprentices put another gallon of oil into the engine. Again, this is the STP straight 40 oil on clearance at AutoZone. Good price, lucky find. And I also taught my apprentices how to check the oil with the dipstick. Now the dipstick's about 4.5 feet long, so it's hard for a child to check and get it all the way out. But sure enough, we pulled it all the way out and it was now on full, so I felt happy that the engine had sufficient amount of oil. Now if you're wondering, gee, how much oil actually came out of the engine? Well, I consolidated it all later so I could take it for recycling, and sure enough, it was exactly 5 gallons. I would have been fine with a 5-gallon bucket, but you know what? Better safe than sorry. Later on, I decided to, film the replacement of the oil in the hub, because I thought that was something interesting that you don't get to see every day. So I thought I'd dig into that a little bit more. And you could see here, I'm just getting my work area ready. I'm going to go get the... wow, there's a lot of dead space here. I probably should have cut this out. Sorry about this. I thought I cut out all these gaps, or these dead spaces for my video. Anyways, okay, we're back at it now. So anyways, out comes the handy dandy cat litter pan again, / oil pan. And I saw this trick of putting a piece of cardboard underneath the hub to keep it from draining all over the wheels, which seemed like a good idea, and it did work at first, but after a while, you'll see later, I gave up on it just because it was too hard to hold it and do other things at the same time. So I used my impact driver to take out all of the bolts that hold the hub cover on, or I guess it's a hub cap. Again, I thought I sped this clip up, so I'm going to stand here and just keep talking until it's over, because it's too late to go back and speed it up now. Anyway, so here we go. So I stuck the cardboard underneath like I had learned. Took off the last bolt, ready for the oil to come out, and nothing happened. The hub cover was still stuck on tight. I tried to take it off with my hand. It was stuck tight. So I decided to go get old trusty, the 2-pound dead blow hammer, and give it a couple taps, and after that it came right off. Along with one of the nut covers. That's easy to fix. So here you go. You can see the gasket is still stuck there to the wheel. You can see the hub cover comes off, and it's you can see the oil here is, like I said, it's cloudy, it's light brown, it's obviously had some water filtration from somewhere, I don't know where, but so it was fairly cold to this day. I want to say it was in the low 40s. And, you know, this is spring in Illinois. You never know if it's going to be 40 or 80. And I started draining it, and I realized that this is really thick oil, right? This is like 75 weight oil. And so it was going really, really, really slow. So I thought, well, how can I speed this up? Well, I can heat it, I thought. So I had my apprentice hold the cardboard. Oh no, I didn't heat it yet. So the first thing I did is I got some brake parts cleaner, and I started spraying brake parts cleaner into the hub to try and flush the oil out faster. And unfortunately, it didn't do anything. The brake parts cleaner is so light, it literally just rolled off the top and rolled right out of the hub before it could mix in with the oil, and so it really wasn't working. So at this point, you can see the gears in my head turning, and I'm going, you know, this would be easier if it were hot. So I stuck along with this for a little bit longer, and then eventually gave up, and I had my apprentice go get my handy dandy propane blowtorch. Now, take a guess what's going to happen next. Part of me knew what was going to happen next, but didn't care. But as you could guess, when you put flame and brake parts cleaner together, you get fire. And sure enough, I lit my cardboard drain on fire, and I lit the hub on fire. Fortunately, no harm was done. It burnt itself out after a few minutes. And then after the brake parts cleaner burnt away, I actually found that using the blowtorch to heat the oil and get it to come out worked really well. So I just, you know, very gently heated the inside of the hub, the bearings inside, moving the torch around until all of the oil finally drained out, or at least enough of it drained out that I felt like it was gone. And sure enough, the oil was sputtering and giving signs that it had lots of water in it, so this was absolutely the right thing to do. So came back later that day after I gave it some chance to drain, and I got a new gasket from our local truck parts store. They had one in stock, which was really nice. So I came back, and first thing I did is I had to scrape all of the old gasket material. It's a paper gasket. Had to scrape all the old gasket material off, you know, clean up the area where the hub mounts up. I blew it out with some air just to make sure everything was out. And then I installed the new gasket and the new hub cover, and that was it. I mean, hopefully problem solved. Hopefully this was just a one-off. I also wanted to mention that I did, at one point after this, I did go underneath the truck and I checked the rear diff just to make sure it was full. It holds a ton of oil, and I didn't really want to change it unless it was dirty. So I did go back. The rear diff was full of clear light brown oil, so we were good there. So there you go. That's how you do lube job on a vintage fire truck. Hope you enjoyed, and check out some more videos coming soon. Bye.